Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen here as always. Follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet, and if you can listen to this show anywhere, please do. That includes Juicy Steen at juicysteen.podbean.com. Excuse me, I guess you're not going to listen to it there. Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, and of course iTunes via Apple Podcasts. And if you do listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and review. It really helps the show grow. And on YouTube at Juicy Steen. However, this is not your normal pod here by me going solo, and this is not a prediction show. It's a little bit of everything. And we have a guest this week, fresh off his Royal Rumble attendance, the one, the only, Josh Isenberg at Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter. Josh, how are you, and how are you still awake?
I am living. I'm not sure how I'm still awake, but it was a wonderful weekend in Indianapolis. Kudos to that city for just completely engulfing themselves in WWE, and the Royal Rumble event itself was just electrifying. You know, we didn't even need The Rock there to make it electrifying, but it was a wonderful experience. So I'm excited to talk about Rumble with you. I'm excited to talk about Raw, which I also was in attendance for at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm running on fumes, Juice, but I got my energy back about 35 minutes ago before we started recording this podcast.
Well, that's good, man. Yeah, it looked like it was a fun time. Indianapolis seemed like you said, engulfed in WWE, and with the success that they touted with the Royal Rumble, I can't even imagine how big they're going to go for SummerSlam, let alone how they're going to pull off WrestleMania in Indianapolis. So I have no feeling other than Indianapolis shows up, showed out, and they are proving to WWE that their 10-year deal is well worth it.
Absolutely.
So I felt the Royal Rumble overall was a fun, engaging, entertaining show. We'll go over match by match and kind of get our takes on those, and then we'll kind of close out with what happened on Raw, along with a little bit of preview of what could happen at WrestleMania. We of course have the Elimination Chamber event coming up on March 1st, and I also would like to take this time to acknowledge and thank any and everybody who participated in the Pool Party Gaming Royal Rumble pool sponsored by the Juice Box. We had 76 entries, which might not sound like a lot, but with 3 days notice and it just kind of happening spur of the moment, I think everybody along with Pool Party was pretty thrilled with that. And the winner, I believe, was the Tribal Chief. I'm not sure if there's any numbers additional to that, but I have reached out to him. He's going to get a shirt from WWE Shop, and assuming he is available the week of Elimination Chamber, which likely will be the end of this month, Josh, he will be joining you and I as we do predictions for the PLE happening in Toronto. So, I mean, you didn't win, you know.
I did not, but everybody's a winner when they're able to be on the Juice Box.
Wow. I got to clip that. Not too many praiseworthy things are said here on this program, so I'll take one, and this is one for our side. So, all right, yeah, the Pool Party Gaming, man, I thought it was real fun to watch along. I mean, 2 matches out of 4 happened, and there was, someone that was undefeated. They ended up winning, but it was close throughout. I believe it ended up with a tiebreaker that we got to the winner. So it was pretty cool. I believe friend of the show, Mike Nolan, finished second, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah, he got his picks in. Yeah, got his picks in, and down there in Clearview, and down in Clearwater Beach. Excuse me, not Clearview Credit Union, but Clearwater Beach. Yeah,
still running on fumes.
A lot of people to do that, which is great. I'm excited for what's the future going to hold. It's going to be great.
Absolutely, and I'm assuming we're going to do a chamber pool. We have not talked about it yet. We're still processing what just happened only 5 days ago at the Royal Rumble, and it was also cool seeing a lot of the guys in Wrestling Nation throw their hat into the ring
Oh
and
yeah.
see where they landed in regards to the pool, which was not too good. So, but yeah, it was really cool. Again, having that turn out for a quick turnaround of 3 days, I felt was pretty solid. So looking forward to working more with them. And again, Josh, I appreciate you kind of facilitating the beginning of this partnership as we move forth. So shout out to Josh Isenberg.
Hey, here I am.
Hey, there you. All right, so let's go into the Royal Rumble, man. This we pretty much predicted how it was going to go, where you bookend the show with two Rumble matches. First was the women's match, final was the men's match. Let's just go top to bottom here. Women's Royal Rumble, we felt Charlotte was going to win, and she did. She took out Roxanne Perez, who had one hell of a showing, I felt, in her first Royal Rumble appearance, or her second Royal Rumble appearance, if I'm not mistaken, if she was in there last year. But a lot of interesting stuff. We had Nikki Bella in there. Trish, of course, was in there. Jordan Grace. Overall, your thoughts, and some NXT talent as well. Your thoughts on the Women's Royal Rumble. We were, of course, assuming Charlotte was going to win, and, sometimes chalk does happen. So, thoughts on the Women's Rumble overall?
I thought the Women's Rumble provided a little bit of everything. NXT had a really strong presence there, and, not even just, that 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 47 seconds of Roxanne Perez, but Lash Legend lasting about 17 minutes, a little bit of Jada Parker, Stephanie Vaquer getting, close to 20 minutes of ring time. It's great to see WWE invest in the future, even though the winner has been there over and over again in terms of winning championships, and this is her second Royal Rumble. One real fun fact, the night before, Friday night, after a dinner with my dad, who is probably Charlotte Flair's biggest fan, and the other individuals that I was with, left dinner and went to a Speedway to get a Gatorade because we indulged in a few, adult beverages, wanted to stay hydrated. We walk into a Speedway, and lo and behold, there is a limo driver / security guard, and grabbing a Gatorade out of the cooler is all in sweats, big jacket, Charlotte Flair 2 feet away from my dad, who I still think he's trying to come down from that high. So kudos to my dad on that one. But it was just amazing to see, somebody like that in public at like 10:30 at night, and who's going to be a big part of the Royal Rumble. But the Rumble match itself, like I said, provided a little bit of everything. NXT talent very well represented. I also think it's not being spoken enough that they spotlighted a lot of the mid-card women as well. You look at individuals like Chelsea Green, and you look at other ones, like Ivy Nile lasting, 15, 20 minutes. I think Chelsea clocked in about just under 27 minutes, had a couple of eliminations. So they didn't really have a lot of people that were, in and out. The only ones really under 2 minutes, I think, might have been like Maxine Dupree, and maybe one more of that. But yeah, I was excited to see how they booked this Rumble match. They, again, brought in some legends, focused on the future, but the future is still going to revolve around the aura, the atmosphere that brings Charlotte Flair back to WWE and back in the women's division.
Absolutely. And just because, it's quote unquote predictable, I don't think it was necessarily the wrong move to have Charlotte win. Some people will say, well, she could have won the chamber, but then people would have complained about that. And to me, I'd rather have this almost solidified. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but all signs that we would think would, have Charlotte Flair go against Stephanie Stratton. And if that's the case, then that opens up, the 6-woman chamber, which Liv Morgan's already qualified in. Mm-hmm. And the winner of that would go on to face Rhea Ripley. So it makes more sense that that's the match, because, if Liv is in that elimination chamber, of course, it just builds more stakes. Of course, she wants to get another crack at Rhea Ripley. It doesn't have as much cachet if it's, going after Tiffany's title. Of course, I'm sure the other 5 women will have something in regards to Rhea, but just looking at it that way. And I don't see Charlotte going after the NXT title again.
No, I don't think so. And going back to that Rumble, It's amazing because I think one of the biggest surprises in my mind, probably the biggest pop of the entire night was Alexa Bliss being in there
for sure,
and hearing Alexa's music. seeing her in the ring, she looks great. She's back in shape. I'm very happy that she, the health scare and then obviously the birth of her child. That was a really fun moment. And then going back and watching it, hours later, back at my Airbnb, seeing, the jacket that she had made, for Bray Wyatt. She is such an integral part of any storyline that she's in. It might not be the best storyline ever. Some people criticized, the early stages, even during, COVID with Alexa, with, Bray Wyatt, but she makes anything interesting. So I'm excited to see her back, where they go from her, for her, where they go from here. It's also interesting because I do see WrestleMania, and we'll talk predictions later, there could be 3 or 4 women's matches each night with a couple of championships scattered in, obviously, but they have so much depth, and that's exactly what the Royal Rumble match provided for me. Was they had a crazy amount of really talented women. A lot of them are just getting started, but could potentially be, the Tiffany Stratton of next year. It's amazing to see.
Absolutely, and I want to touch on your point about the mid-card women kind of getting more highlighted, and that's, it's true. They have the United States and Intercontinental Championships for the women now, and it would be derelict of duty for WWE to not spotlight that when they've just introduced 2 new championships. You want to make sure as many other contenders, arise from the Royal Rumble, because not everybody can win it. One person can win it, and one person's going to win the chamber, and those are your main world title matches. But you have to build other factors in, and we'll talk about that with the men as well. But with the storyline-based stuff happening, including, Naomi and Bianca having a little bit of a interesting interaction there, which who knows what that'll turn into, and you need to have a few things planned out outside of championships to really boost up WrestleMania, because again, not everybody can have that world title match. So I think they did a wonderful job. I think here's my biggest gripe, and it was a gripe from a lot of fans out there. I'm interested to hear your take, but the theme music, with multiple theme musics from Def Rebel, just didn't seem to resonate, in years past, and maybe it's just because we're older fans. God, as soon as a song hits, you know exactly who's coming out. And I know that in today's day and age, it's kind of cool, almost somewhat intriguing to be like, well, I don't know who this theme is. Who could it be? And then you hear the crowd see who it is, and they pop for it. But to me, I'd rather have a very easily recognizable theme, because it's legacy, it's sustainability, you want to remember things. And I don't know. It just seemed crazy that more than half of the women, like Trish's theme hit, you know exactly who it is, right? Yeah. Same with Nikki Bella. I popped for that. So, but more than half of these it was like, oh, okay. And that's no disparity towards the women that were there. It's the themes just aren't unique anymore, man. How was it in the building?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a combination of the themes between the mid-carders and NXT. They all kind of sound similar. And you hit the nail right on the head. The entrances of Nikki, the entrance music of Nikki, Charlotte, Trish, even Alexa, the dun-dun, that is identifiable, with all of the characters and personalities. I agree with the griping of Def Rebel. I think there comes a time and point in anybody's career. I mean, hell, Wade Barrett back in the day had like 7 theme songs in 4 years, and it was like, he's changing this one again. Like, what's the point of this, I agree. I think that there needs to be more understanding that theme songs should be made for the character. You shouldn't have a problem about, the mainstay, music of these women that you identify with, but also at the same time, music is a huge part of getting a talent over. As much as their character development, in-ring, mic skills, the music can do volumes for somebody. I mean, not to say Jay doesn't have all of those, but he is a guy. That music hits, boom, crowd goes crazy. Yeah, I wish they do something different, in the future. I think seeing the New Day's music on Monday Night Raw, I actually liked it. I thought, this sounds different, it even goes to the men's, with like Finn Balor and his new Judgment Day music, a little bit different. I don't love it, but I agree with everybody with what they were saying. It's just they all, 5 or 6 of them just sounded like, who in the hell is this? And if you're going to do that, you have to put the person's name on the screen. And in that stage, doesn't warrant that because they have that long entranceway. They don't have the big stage. So you have to look up and say, okay, who's coming out? And at that point, it's 5 or 10 seconds, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Absolutely. And my other point about the theme music, it's not even that the Def Rebel themes are necessarily bad. I think that it's a couple things. More often than not, they're generic. There's
Yeah.
nothing that like, and it's not to say that Jim Johnston was the end all be all, but what he did and what the WWE did with when he was writing the music was like taking some time to, okay, what is the best about this character that I can accentuate via audio that is
Yeah.
instantly understandable by fans? And taking time, and then not only taking time to create the song, but not pivoting every other week and changing what the music is. Like you
Yeah.
get used to a song, and then all of a sudden in 3 weeks it's either not there anymore, and it's completely different, or it's tweaked in a way where it's like, well, I thought that was okay, and then you just have to keep rolling with it. They expect you to just have all these Def Rebel themes just like as a Rolodex in your head. Oh, I know who everybody is here, and I'm hoping that the outcry from some fans, it's not going to turn everything around, but maybe they'll just think a little longer and put a little bit more thought into what makes each individual character important and why the fans can relate immediately instead of, oh, I have to read it on a Titantron.
Yeah, and the last thing that I want to say about
Yeah.
the women's match is going back to that mid card spotlight, the women getting a lot of time in the ring. Out of the 30 participants, 19 of them had eliminations. And it's crazy to think that 19 of them had eliminations when you saw Nia eliminate 9 of them. So they
Yeah.
did a good job at spreading out those moments of, oh, Piper Niven eliminated Chelsea Green and things like that. It was good shock value for this little parts in that mid card, group of women that they still got something there. So I was excited to see everybody get a little bit of everything.
Yeah, man, I can't agree with you more. That was I really enjoyed the women's rumble. I think the men's rumble beat it out by a little bit,
Yeah.
just because of the star power. And I also didn't know, and I'm looking at this again. We'll get to it, but the men's Royal Rumble was actually the longest Royal Rumble match that ever took place.
Yep.
An hour, 20 minutes, and 15 seconds. But to me, and I would never have known that by
Yeah.
watching it. So we'll touch on that. But let's talk about the two matches in between the Royal Rumble matches. We had DIY defeating the Motor City Machine Guns 2-1 for the WWE Tag Titles. They retained. Josh, how did this match go off in the building? I felt that, what I could tell, and there was a lot of people in this building, Lucas Oil Stadium, that maybe the air got a little sucked out from the Women's Royal Rumble. I mean, that's an exhausting match to be in, to watch, to sit through, and it's like, whew, I got to breathe. And you also know you got a ladder match coming up. Did it feel like the air kind of got taken out by the time we got to this tag match, even though I felt it was a good match?
Yeah, I think so too. The quick first pinfall, I think, took a lot of people out because I think they were expecting this 2 out of 3 falls match to be more than, I think it clocked in at 14 minutes on the dot, actually, according to Wikipedia. And I think this was just, you had to have a breather match. They put on a good match, but again, this is the point where you go to the bathroom, you grab some food, you grab a drink, and by the time you come back with the lines that were there, which they were long, but again, there's 70,000 people or whatever it was, so you can
Right.
expect that to happen. The match itself was good. My only gripe about this was I didn't think it was the right time for the Street Profits to interfere and then also attack DIY. If you're going to
Right.
make these guys heels, which I think at this point of their career, they've been floundering for the past, maybe the past year, to be honest with you, you got to have a definitive route for them to go. I don't. I think they should be heels, but at the same time, you have DIY, you have them, yet they have Pretty Deadly on SmackDown. There's a lot of heel tag teams, and Motor City Machine Guns are not like a definitive over tag team. Even though I've liked them for many, many years, even before they came
Right.
into WWE. To have a good heel tag team, you have to have an even stronger face tag team. And I don't think they have that in the tag team division. A lot of really good tag teams, but nobody is standing out from the pack. And I also think it goes back to the theme music. These 2 guys, or these 4 guys, excuse me, have just kind of generic theme music. It's nothing that's going to get you on your feet. It's not going to be something that you're like, I have to see this. So yeah, definitely got the air taken out of Lucas Oil. And really, the match was fine. It was a good match.
Yeah.
It felt like a SmackDown, maybe main event on a random, December. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was just fine to me.
Yeah, and it's just bizarre. I initially thought that the Street Profits were turning heel, but when they
Yeah.
hit both teams with the chair, it came off as, in between, and they're just trying to get involved in the division at a higher level and saying, no, 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 we deserve this. Like, I don't care about you in this team and this fight you guys just had. We are, putting our stake in there. Now,
Yeah.
again, this, to be fair, this show is being recorded and airing before SmackDown, so who knows what the Street Profits potentially end up doing and how it's going to all be presented later on tonight on SmackDown, which is still a 3-hour show. So they've got plenty of time to insert a tag team division story in that 3-hour slot. So it remains to be seen, but I do at least think that it's nice having some depth, some more depth, some interesting stuff with the Street Profits having an edge to them. It's a wrinkle. It's something. If you're not going to get them split and you're not going to have one of them, Montez being a heel or anything,
Yeah.
at least give the team as a whole something,
Yeah.
a little extra juice, if you will. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
So what I was looking forward to and what did not disappoint was Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, ladder match for the undisputed WWE title. Of course, the undisputed and Winged Eagle championships were hanging high above the ring. This was a car wreck, and I figured as such. I presented Kevin Owens as Mr. Royal Rumble, and he did not disappoint. This was brutal. It was fun to watch. KO took a brutal Alabama slam through the ladder on the outside, which ended up being the final nail in the KO world title coffin, as it were. Cody retains. Man, this match was nuts. How was it in the building? And are you shocked that Cody Rhodes retained his championship?
Not shocked that Cody Rhodes retained. A glimmer of hope, I think, when the match started because Kevin took a lot of the offensive side of things. He really put himself into a spot where, as much as people wanted to boo him, they were still kind of cheering him because Kevin is a unique character in WWE. Again, like we talked about last week, I think he is that type of person that doesn't look like a bodybuilder because he's not. He doesn't work out. He is a guy that, you want to hang out with.
He looks like a WWE fan.
Exactly, yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah. But what he does in the ring is obviously not a WWE fan. This guy is unbelievably talented in any situation that they put him in. Hence why he main evented 2 straight WrestleManias. Even though he has not a good record at the Royal Rumble. So it tells you everything you need to know about Kevin, that he does whatever it takes to leave a lasting impression. The crowd was into it from the very beginning. I think that spot at the end where he got, just really, whenever they zoomed in the replay and you saw his head go through the rings of the ladder, there was a slight is he okay? I had friends and family there, and they were saying, it looked like he really got hurt. And I'm thinking to myself, there is a good chance that he probably did get hurt.
Right.
It's hard to fake
denying that he's hurt.
Yeah. But this match delivered on every avenue. I rewatched it Sunday night when I got back home in Pittsburgh because I really wanted to see from the television perspective, was it as gruesome as it looked live and the sound in the arena? And it was even more whenever I saw it on TV. So, you got to give kudos to both of these guys. A very, very slight little thing that I did notice in the crowd. There's usually in my mind 90% Cody cheers versus boos. You're going to get a very, very small scattering of boos no matter who it is, unless it's CM Punk. Right. When he came out after Kevin came out, it was a little 70-30. It's not enough to think, oh, we have to turn this guy heel, because I don't think you have to turn Cody heel. But something to keep an eye on. It was getting a little, this might be the beginning, maybe 6, 9, 12 months down the road. We might need to reevaluate that reaction. But whenever he won, there was a little brief pause, obviously, because of the spot that Kevin took there. People loved it. And I think, Cody does everything he needs to do to be a credible champion, a fighting champion. And I mean, we saw back in his AEW days, he will do anything and anything to make sure that he is respected by the crowd. And I think with WWE, the crowd, the vast majority of the crowd respects every time he puts his body on the line.
100%, man. And again, we'll talk about potential WrestleMania pieces of business a little bit later on after we talk about the Rumble. But with Cody's reaction, I find it perfect timing that that's going to be the case, because if things go as I think they will, and a lot of people think they will, I don't know if Cody Rhodes is going to have the WWE Championship much longer. So I don't know if they'll have to worry about, is our champion going to be a babyface? Because if he doesn't have the title, it's all about the chase, So I don't think people will care. If he's chasing, it's irrelevant. He's going to be a babyface and everybody loves him. But it's when you become a champion and then you're still champion and no one's beating you, and it's like, okay, now I'm fed up with it. Either turn or lose the title. So I think we're, even though it's only we're 2 months away from it being a year of Cody being champion, yet we are at this point. But hey, it happened quicker for John Cena, who we'll talk about in a moment. Cena was world champ on top of the world, Mania 21, but by SummerSlam, people were cheering for Chris Jericho. So, you never know. But, man, hell of a match, hell of a performance by both guys. And I said it last week, man, Kevin Owens, the trust that WWE has with Kevin Owens is astounding. It's almost unbelievable. He's been put in there with, again, legends. Steve Austin, who hadn't wrestled in like 19 years, and Cody, who's their number one guy, and he's been in there with Roman 3 times at the Rumble. Guys that you have to have such a level of trust in, and like they have to believe in what you do is so worth their time to put you in the main event. And for him to be in the main event with all of those guys is a real testament to Kevin Owens as a performer. So kudos to everybody involved.
Yeah, and he's going to get credited with a good WrestleMania match. He doesn't, he's gotten Stone Cold. He's won the tag titles at 39, 40. He was with Randy and Logan Paul. I mean, the guy's WrestleMania record is, say whatever you want him not being a world champion. He might be at a level right now where maybe he doesn't even need it. I wish he had it, maybe not right now, but sometime in 25. But he does whatever it takes and always lasts a moment. And that's very hard to do whenever you're not a world champion, because he's still a guy that people always talk about and always pay to see.
Absolutely, man. And you want to talk about people coming to the building to see one superstar, if not a couple of that were involved in this match, the Royal Rumble for the men. I cannot believe that it happened this way. It's frustrating to me because last April on this show, I said I would not be shocked if Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. In May, I tweeted it out. But by the time we got to this, last couple of weeks, all these other factors come into play. And I thought CM Punk was going to be the one to get it. And damn it, I should have just been stuck with Jey Uso, because I would have looked even like a genius for sticking with it. Like, of course I could have thought it, but I never thought they'd pull the trigger. But damn it, they did. Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble, last eliminating John Cena, which, we talked about how Cena, whether he wins a world title at a certain spot or not, eventually he's going to go back to, I'm going to put over, insert name, for them to be world champion again. And it was no different here. He puts over Jey Uso huge to win the Royal Rumble. Before we tackle the ins and outs of certain guys that came into this thing, overall crowd reaction to the last 6 or 7 entries were just like unreal talent.
Yeah.
Plus culminating with the final 4. How was it in the building? The anticipation, and then of course Jey Uso winning, which had to have come as a surprise to a lot of people.
Yeah, big surprise, but also at the same time a good surprise. The last 15, 20 minutes of this Royal Rumble match was your heavy hitters that are involved in multiple storylines. The storylines typically all revolved around the bloodline. Whenever you look at, oh my goodness, you have Jay come out, Jacob Fatu getting eliminated by Braun Strowman was probably the biggest surprise, even though it wasn't a huge surprise. It was a big surprise. The only thing that I think was, so The only thing that I think the crowd may have not loved was we knew who the last three people were going, or last were five people, 4 or 5 people,
Yeah.
with Sammy having to come out still, LA Knight, Damian Priest, and Logan Paul obviously getting number 30. But when you go from Jay at 20, the return of AJ, and then Cena, Punk, Rollins, I mean, and obviously Roman was already in there. You got all these heavy hitters, so you knew the last 3 or 4 didn't need to be a massive surprise. But I think the crowd reaction was like a 9.5 out of 10 because I think they were still waiting for maybe one more potential surprise right at the end, which they always do, to be honest with you. But overall, diving into this match, they booked this match so well. Where again, you didn't have a lot of guys going over 15, 20 minutes similar to the women's, but you had Joe Hendry have his moment, even though he was in for 3 minutes. But you're getting eliminated by Roman Reigns, okay? Like
well, that's ridiculous. People being upset over that, I'm like, sure, he's the TNA champion, but like, did you want him to win the Rumble? Like, what did you possibly have expected? And for him to get eliminated by a guy who hasn't been in a Rumble in a long time, who's also the longest reigning WWE champion in over 20 years, I think it's okay.
I think it's okay too, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this match delivered on every aspect, every big fight feel in the last 15 minutes. And to be honest with you, the only person that in my mind wasn't underwhelming, but he got his shine after he got eliminated, which was Seth Rollins. Seth got the pop, and he was in there for 15, 16 minutes. But that story with him, Punk, and Roman will be very interesting to see what they do with it. There's been this reports of maybe a triple threat match. I don't love that idea, but I'm so happy that at the end of the night it was a simplistic elimination. Cena goes right back in there, acknowledges the fact that, hey, this is Jay's time. I just wonder, why in the hell would you have him lose a few weeks ago to Gunther clean at Saturday night's main event, only for him to win this one and potentially face Gunther again at WrestleMania? That's the only question in my mind. But overall, people love the fact that they were yeeting all over Indianapolis.
I will try to answer that question because that's a very interesting question that you pose. To me, it's the second chance. It's Gunther beating Jey Uso and thinking, well, there's no way he's ever going to win the Rumble or Chamber. I'm not going to see this guy again, And now, I got to see this guy again. And Jey Uso, he came so close to winning. He's had a lot of close calls over the last few years in regards to winning major championships, only with success with the IC and the tag titles with Cody. But, coming up so close, this is your ticket to eliminate all of that negativity and all the losses you had before you. This guarantees you a shot at the biggest stage for the biggest championships, and you can make it all better if you just win this. So I like how they book it that way. And we can talk about it now. Some early WrestleMania matches have definitely come more to fruition to start, at least, with this Royal Rumble. First, Jey Uso seemingly will go against Gunther, if that's how, do you think that's where we're headed with that?
Yeah, I think so. I can't see Gunther dropping the title at Chamber. Hell, I don't even know if he has a match at Chamber. He should, but
he should, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad, main event, but it's not. I think this is what's going to happen. He's going to quote main event WrestleMania, right? Yeah. I don't see this ending one of the two nights.
I see it opening one of the nights, if anything. Yeah, might open the first night.
Yep, definitely.
Because you get the entrance, and I mean, is Jey Uso going to win the title? We're not going to predict it yet, but I mean, do you think he overcomes? Does Gunther lose twice at WrestleMania, 2 years in a row at WrestleMania, like that? I mean,
maybe he's the guy that wins everything, but he can't get over the hump of winning WrestleMania again. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I was surprised whenever he lost to Sami Zayn last year in Philadelphia, to be honest with you.
Same, because that was when he had his 600-day reign, and we're all thinking it's got to be someone that's going to use it to their advantage. And, Sami he won his 4th IC title that night. It wasn't like some new crazy thing. He had been to the top of the mountain, well, almost, not world title withstanding. So Gunther losing again, this time to Jey Uso, would be pretty fascinating. At the same time, I don't know if Jey Uso would be world champion. I could see him getting close and not getting it.
Yeah. Man, that if that's the first match on WrestleMania Saturday or Sunday and Jay loses, that is deflating. Like that
Yeah.
is
But
so.
that's heat,
Yeah,
man, because you already got your big moment, the Rumble. That's how they'll kind of they'll tell you that, hey, we gave it to you. This what you really want? Jay will win a world title at some point. Maybe not at Mania though. I don't know. I think it's almost too easy to say Jey Uso's going to win because he's had the Travis Scott entrance, the Quavo entrance. He wins the Royal Rumble. He's the most popular
maybe
guy in
he's a
the
Wayne Newton
company.
entrance in Vegas. Who knows?
Yeah, well, well, my thing is, I think it could be another Travis Scott thing. It seems like they might have Fiend as the theme song or one of the
Yeah,
theme songs, and if that's the case, I don't see why. I mean, if Jey Uso already gets a special entrance on Raw,
yeah.
imagine his WrestleMania like world title match entrance. That
Electric.
that he could come in on a helicopter for all we know.
Well,
You know?
Charlotte did that at 35, so I don't know if she copyrighted that or not.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but so you also mentioned Rollins, Reigns, and Punk. Now here's something I do want to note before we check in on that. I am looking at the order of eliminations, right, and where they are all, what brands they're from. After Penta, it goes 3 from SmackDown got eliminated, 4 from Raw, 4 from SmackDown, 3 from Raw, and then Cena is unaffiliated. So it was weird that they, like, after a few guys got out, they went, okay, 3 more from SmackDown, and let's knock out 4 more from Raw. I'm not sure if it was deliberate, but it certainly seems like it could be, or an easier way for the guys in the match to be like, all right, it's all the SmackDown guys. Let's get these
Yeah.
guys out. It's 1-1-1-1. Then we'll go to the next story. But Rollins, Punk, Reigns. Any of these guys could be in a world title match, and I wouldn't be shocked. Yet it seems like these guys are having a match with each other. Do you think Paul Heyman's favor comes into play here? Or do you think the Elimination Chamber could have something to do with the favor, considering Punk has already advanced to that Chamber match?
Man, that's a great question. I just wish I had an idea of what the favor could be. Do you have an idea what it could be? Because I don't.
When it first happened, the only thought that came into my mind, and I know that using logic in regards to pro wrestling is asinine, considering it's all a work, but if like to me, the only way Paul Heyman could give a favor to CM Punk would be if one of Heyman's clients, Roman, was world champion, because then it's like Punk couldn't win a number one contender match or something. Roman needs a match at Mania. Okay, I'm gonna Punk, you get it. Like, okay, that's it, right? Because if not, it baffles me that Roman would sign off on something to help Punk purely because Paul Heyman said to do it, to me. So
Yeah.
it's going to be something where Heyman screws over Roman or some way. Now, I will be curious if Roman gets into this chamber match. Maybe that's something. Maybe Punk gets a better draw. I'm just as confused as you, man. Unless it was for a championship that was already within Paul Heyman's grasp, I have no idea what strings Heyman could legitimately pull for
Yeah.
Punk to get an advantage. Because at this point, I don't see Punk getting a Mania main event again. So I mean, they're not gonna, even if Jay and Gunther, let's say, is not the main event. Okay, let's say Cody and Cena have their match. That's a main event. What would main event, quote unquote, what would be the final match on that other night if it's not Jay and Gunther? Would it be a women's title match like Tiffany and Charlotte?
I mean, it could be. I think that's definitely an option.
Because it
I
won't be
think some,
Roman, Seth, Punk. That's what I'm getting at. Like, they wouldn't have a triple threat with non-title, even with the star power in the main event, I don't think.
yeah, I don't think so either. And the only thing that I could really think of is maybe, just maybe, if this triple threat does not happen, um, man, it's tough because if the triple threat doesn't happen, then you think maybe Punk can face Cody and win, the championship or
Right.
go for the championship. I can't see Cody and Roman again. I can't see Cody and Seth. So there's an interesting opportunity for WWE if they end up doing John Cena winning the chamber, then John Cena can go and face Cody. Then they still have these three guys. But for me, it's more of John Cena wanting to not necessarily win the championship, but again, his press conference states otherwise. So there's
Yeah.
so many moving pieces. It's hard to figure out, which I like. But at the same time, I don't know if they have all of the answers. I feel like Triple H does, but man,
We'll see.
there's
You
just
brought
so
up
many moving pieces. I'm so undecided on this.
I kind of want to piggyback of what you said. Let's say Cena wins the Rumble, or the Rumble. Well, we can't have that happen. Say Cena wins the Chamber, right? And it still could be Punk, Rollins, Roman. What if Paul Heyman can find a way to get Punk in the world title match and it be a triple threat, Punk, Cena, Cody?
Yeah.
Because the only way, unless if Paul Heyman doesn't have a title in his team of people that he represents, the only way he could help Punk legitimately or realistically rather is by inserting Punk into a title match, giving him the chance to win it, in a way that he didn't earn it. He lost every opportunity up until that point, and it would kind of be funny because back in 2013, I thought the right move would have been Punk, Rock, Cena triple threat instead of what we got. So maybe now it's a make good, in kayfabe it wouldn't be, but for the fans it's like Punk actually gets that match. He gets a match with Cena, and that might be the only way you get Punk and Cena one-on-one, kind of in a triple threat. So before it's all said and done. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good call. I think, if Cena does win the Chamber, which I think he's the favorite right now in terms of a lot of people, having a way where Punk cashes in his favor, but I also think if he cashes in his favor as a face, he still has to somewhat earn it. So maybe we get a Netflix match between John Cena and CM Punk.
Oh my God.
Where he has to beat John Cena to get to WrestleMania. And that's
just like
that
the pile driver.
What's
back
that?
in the Raw match that they had to determine that number one contender back in 2013, where Punk that pile driver.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, and I want that to happen a lot more because I would be really on board with just a one-on-one Roman versus Seth. We've had that at the Royal Rumble a few years ago where he came out in the Shield gear, but at that time Seth was very credible. But as much as I don't like Seth's gimmick, he is very well above what he was, 3 years ago, whatever it was, 4 years ago.
For sure. And Roman's they're both at such a high level now that I think it's more than worthy of. And like you just said, they have a story that they've played upon. They could really lean into it for this.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with these guys' histories and their success in WWE, their maybe last real fight ever against each other should be at WrestleMania, and that is another high-profile match where people are going to be thoroughly invested. So yeah, I like your idea of somehow Punk, backdooring his way in and making that a triple threat. I think it's a great idea because there's so many dynamics, and realistically, that's your main event Sunday. And I love triple threats whenever it's done right and when there's backstories to it. And I mean, just think, Cena, I've been here for 20 some odd years. I never left to make myself something else. I didn't have to go and reinvent myself.
And both those guys did.
What's that?
I said, and both Cody and Punk did. They both went and did other things, and they're right back at WrestleMania as if nothing changed.
Correct.
The only other potential idea, it's not even an idea, is just if Cena, I don't know. To me, and we talked about it where like Cena doesn't want the spotlight. He wants to lose and put people over. I don't care. I don't think WWE cares about that now. They just want to make Cena's farewell year the best that it can be. And to me, that is Cena winning the world title 20 years after he won his first one at WrestleMania, the biggest show, right? But this could lend an opportunity where the other option that I've seen and I kind of am on board with, but I'd have to see how it plays out, is if Cena, doesn't win at WrestleMania, he comes up short again. And whether it's winning Money in the Bank and successfully cashing in like he didn't do back at Raw 1000, let's say he wins Money in the Bank and sets his sights and cashes in on, sets the match for SummerSlam in his backyard, MetLife Stadium. He wins that match so that whenever he does lose that title, eventually that could be his final match, is literally not just passing the torch to somebody by, hey, you beat John Cena in his final match, but you won the world title off of John Cena in Cena's final match. I think that holds even more weight. And then it plays up that in between Mania and SummerSlam of, is Cena even going to get a chance at 17 again if he fails again? So I would be on board with Cena maybe not winning the Chamber and then finding, some other match at Mania. I don't know what that would be, but there's plenty of options. And then you earn that later on. And that's how I think, maybe the Heyman favor is Punk, Heyman cheating in a way to win the Chamber. Because that could happen as well. That's where there's two options, either a triple threat or Punk just gets in by way of Chamber and wins that way. But the fact that we don't know is the best.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I wanted to touch on just some other things. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the iShowSpeed thing. I mean, we talked about how important it was going to be for them to capitalize on this. And not only did they capitalize on it, but I felt it was so well done. And I know it's so like easy. Like, of course they were going to do it this way, but Tozawa going to the back, and so I'm from watching it at home, him going in the back, and Speed's just like hanging out in Gorilla, and it's really like just casually being like, he's just hanging out there, like, why not? You're streaming, and for it to go from that to, hey, get in the ring, like, go ahead, and he doesn't want to do it, but like as soon as he hits the tunnel to get out there, he embraces it like he's been waiting for this his entire life, and it's like, that was so funny to me. Like, he's like, no, I don't want to go in. All right, I'm here,
I'm here, let's do it, yeah.
And for that to turn into him getting cut in half by Braun Breaker, it's a perfect match, man. That was exactly the way to do it. It got so much social media interaction. It's insane. And they're nuts if they don't try to pull something off for WrestleMania.
You want to get nuts? Yeah, let's get nuts. Yeah, I mean, a great spot, and I think they accomplished everything they needed in a short amount of time with iShowSpeed. They're about moments. And when people talk about, well, we don't want this celebrity coming in, blah, 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 who else do you want in there? Do you want another mid-card guy who will last 3 or 4 minutes? No. Like, make the moment, because realistically the Rumble's about a few big stories intertwining and those bigger superstars, getting the opportunity. So, no, I loved it. I thought it was great. I don't have TikTok. I know iShowSpeed, but I don't watch any of his stuff. But hearing his reaction, seeing the spear, great WrestleMania moment, similar to when Logan first came in, or not first came in, but he came in against Ricochet.
Absolutely. And, we brought up Joe Hendry before. That was a great moment. Yeah. TNA, not just a TNA guy, the TNA world champion is in the Royal Rumble. And they brought up Nick Nemeth as Nick Nemeth. I love that in this relationship, they're acknowledging the canon of TNA instead of who he was before in WWE. Like, that's a great way to do it. And it's just, I never thought that it would be possible. So as small a detail as that is, I love that they're really going for it and giving the respect to these guys. They can go to another company. It's not going to kill you to acknowledge that there's other wrestling out there, because we've brought up how many times you can't just be in one company forever. Sting even went to WWE. Like, at some point you go places,
Yeah,
so,
no, I agree. Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Another match that I think could be brewing, and the rumor saying that he's pissed about it, I just don't buy anymore. I think everything, like, it is on my Twitter, is a work with Drew McIntyre. But it looks like Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre are set for Mania potentially. I don't know if it's a downgrade necessarily, because I like both these guys, but they were both featured heavily in the world title picture 1 year ago at WrestleMania, and now it seems like they're on a collision course sans title. So what are your thoughts on an early potential match between Drew and Priest?
Yeah, definitely like it, because I think for the longest time Drew's been, the bloodline hunter and trying to get revenge on CM Punk, when realistically the guy that benefited the most was Damian whenever he cashed in on Drew, ruining his moment. So as much as he thought Punk ruined his moment, which he had played a vital part in it, Damian's the guy that cost him his championship ultimately. So I'm on board with this being a nice, like, mid-card, I never wish anybody to have the second match at WrestleMania. That typically for me is a really fun tag team match, or, maybe a mid-card title match. I'm on board with this. I think this is a good opportunity for both guys. a grudge match of terms. So there's some history there. Yeah, I'm fine with this happening at WrestleMania. I think it's the right option to go for both of these guys.
And one final potential match that I'm not sure it's going to happen, but based on how things were turning out, would you be interested in Braun Breaker versus Jacob Fatu for the Intercontinental Championship?
Um,
Or does Jacob Fatu have a higher ceiling already?
I don't know about a higher ceiling. I don't think that will happen. I know that they're on different shows.
Yeah.
I would prefer to see Jacob Fatu with his guys, a potential solo return, maybe taking on, I don't know, Sammy and Jimmy. I'm not sure. I'm not in favor of him going for the IC title because the IC title at WrestleMania really is never that big of a deal. So I guess I'm answering your question. I think there is more for him to do, or more of importance for him to do, than try to go for that IC title, unless they make Breaker just an absolute monster in the next month. And that's what we talked about before Saturday night's main event is we got to give him some real big credible wins. I see Fatu really feuding with Strowman and then pivoting at WrestleMania for maybe like a 6-man tag or something that there's new people that are trying to dethrone the quote new bloodline.
Right. And it's also, again, with SmackDown hasn't even happened yet. We're still not out of the first week removed from Rumble. So, we talked, even if, let's say Punk gets in the chamber and wins it or whatever, and you get Roman and Seth, but we could still have Roman and Jacob Fatu one-on-one at WrestleMania this year.
Sure.
And that's bigger than a title. It makes sense. And, I think you could make a star as if Jacob Fatu's already not almost there. You get a huge match against Roman, whether he wins or not remains to be seen, but you get a big match against Roman at WrestleMania. I think that kind of shows everybody where you're at. And if that's the case, let's say Roman and Jacob is the match, that would free up a potential Seth and Punk match, whether it's for a title or whatnot. So it all depends on where these things fall into place. One of the three guys that that potential triple threat is already in the chamber, and then we don't know what Roman's going to do, and Seth is out for everybody's head. So they're all flying at different paces, and I'm very curious to see where they all land on March 1st. But that all being said, we also had AJ Styles returning. That was really nice to see, and I wanted to bounce off of what happened on Raw this past week. Additionally, I want to shout out Penta, who had the longest time in the Rumble. That is, man, you want to talk about making a star immediately. He came out in the first two and lasted the longest, so I think that's really cool to see as well.
LeBar called it. He almost called it. Number one, number two, they're pretty much the same, but that damn LeBar knows what he's talking about sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Not all the time. Definitely not, but sometimes. But with Sami Zayn, I wanted to talk about this real quick as well. He falls in his match to CM Punk, which was a great match. I feel like it was probably the best match of the Netflix era, maybe outside of Punk and Rollins on the Raw side. So Punk advances to the chamber, as I stated earlier, but KO comes out and drops Sami Zayn with a package pile driver. I have a feeling they have a collision course for Chamber because it's in Toronto, and having the two Canadians that love and hate each other the exact same way going one-on-one in Canada is perfect. But I don't know what it leads to either guy when we get to WrestleMania. So what are your early thoughts on potentially that match at Chamber instead of Mania? Because we've seen it at Mania. We've seen them tag at Mania. I think they should blow this off immediately and then figure something else out for the both of them at Mania.
Yeah, I agree. I think you blow it off. I don't know where Sammy goes from here after that. A guy who's super over still. I don't know what his WrestleMania plans look like. I think that might come, clearer. But you got to factor in Randy Orton.
That's the other thing. He could come back tonight during SmackDown, and this whole thing is moot.
Exactly. Yeah. But I don't think the weird thing is I was surprised to see Kevin on Raw because of the brutality he took on Saturday. I thought they were going to have him off TV for a while. But there's, Randy is a guy now that there's going to be an inevitability where he and Cody have to clash, but they've done such a great job at separating them while still linking them with the pile driver, the package pile driver. I would do Elimination Chamber because you're going to have two chamber matches that'll last 35, 40 minutes. You might have one or two other matches with Kevin, Sammy, and Toronto. Great idea. I wouldn't hate if you saw Kevin win and Kevin try to do the package pile driver again, and here comes Randy. But then I don't know where you go with Sammy at that point. So it'll be interesting to see when Randy returns, if he returns tonight on SmackDown or not. But also, if Randy is still pushed off until Toronto, that's my thought process of saying, okay, it's absolutely going to be him and Kevin. I don't mind if Sammy is somehow involved, but we don't love multi-man matches all the time. I think it's, you pick and choose which ones you want. But there's just, Kevin's done so much to so many similar people where it might make sense to do that. But yeah, it depends on when Randy comes back. He comes back at Chamber, I can see one-on-one, and they figure something out with Sammy. If he comes back tonight or next week or 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a lot of questions more than we have answers for.
Absolutely. And like we've said countless times, it's almost better when we have more questions than answers when regards to WWE and storylines and even AEW, just any wrestling with uncertainty is best, because as much as we like to say we might know a lot and we want to predict these things. And I do also want to say I correctly predicted the final four of the men's Royal Rumble exactly. Punk, Cena, Jey Uso, and Logan Paul. So
you are like the coolest guy ever.
Hey, I don't get many things correct. So if I get something correct, I'm going to make sure everybody knows it, because as soon as we get to the next show, I won't get any of it right.
Well, I mean, you and I were incorrectly predicting a Damian Priest cash in.
Hey, exactly. We just we want to make sure we cover all our bases every single PLE. You never know when things are going to happen. We're not in those booking meetings. So, but yeah, man, this was a fun Royal Rumble. I felt overall, bookended by two Royal Rumble matches that I thought were very, very good. A ladder match that was insane. And whether the tag match was your thing or not, I really enjoy the fact that the division as a whole is getting a little bit more room to breathe. It got a huge match on a huge PLE, showcasing talent. Street Profits, add themselves into this mix of higher quality tag teams that could have a chance. So I think everything on the show as a whole benefited everybody involved. Josh, before we head out, give me your final thoughts on the Royal Rumble as a whole and just your experience going there and how different it is than any other show experiencing it live.
It's the best. I think going to any big PLE, but especially the Royal Rumble, everybody was having fun. We did a tailgate at a bar beforehand where they had a buffet and drinks for like $30, and you saw probably 200 fans there. A few CSR fans, by the way, and a Juice Box fan, just an FYI. It's amazing to think whenever you go somewhere that is a neutral site. Sporting events don't typically have that, right? Unless it's the Super Bowl, but you got to pay like $10,000 to even get in the door there. So it's not for everyone. It's more for, corporate, bigwigs, right? The Rumble and WrestleMania and all of these, no matter if you love or hate the same person, it's just fun because you're not with, 70,000 people from Indianapolis. You're with 70,000 people from all walks of life. So the Rumble event was just really great. It's fun to be there and experience it with, close friends and family, but also you feel like you're such a big part of something bigger and something different. Again, it goes back to you go to an AFC championship game on the road, you're going to get crap talked all over. There's going to be instances, and that's just how fans are with their, their territory. The territory of WWE is legitimately worldwide. And I think that's their biggest selling point is it is a place of inclusion. It's a place for people to come have fun. It's a place for people to interact with people. It just encompasses what everything should be about this world, and that's just love, having fun, making friends, and just experiencing something that you all love together. Win, lose, draw from your favorite person, you're there for a good experience.
Absolutely, man. And I've said that before with people, comparing WrestleMania to the Super Bowl and other big events. And, the Super Bowl's great and all these other sporting events are great, but likely you're rooting for one team or the experience as a whole. When you go to a wrestling show and it's not just WrestleMania, you're likely going to root for multiple people in multiple matches and have an enthusiasm that's unmatched all night. There's really not that many lulls, and if there are, it's because there's commercial breaks. Like, you're always going to have a great time. And like you said, man, the inclusion of just any wrestling fan going to a wrestling show, everybody's like-minded to an extent, and everybody's there to have a great time and enjoy the same thing no matter what side you stand on. And I just think it's a wonderful experience if you've never been to a live show, let alone a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania. So I would highly advise to check any of those out when you can, if possible. So looking forward to whenever that can happen with the Royal Rumble, maybe again if it gets a little closer. But WrestleMania going to Indianapolis, I'm sure I will dabble in, considering it's only a couple hours away from Pittsburgh, where you and I reside. So
yes, sir.
So yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming in, Josh. I know that you had a great time and are probably we probably talked longer on this show than you've had sleep of the last week. So I really appreciate you finding the time to chat up your Royal Rumble experience. It sounded like a great time. I'm glad your dad, I hear he's still he's stuck to the floor there at the Speedway and you have to pry him off. So shout out to Father Isenberg. But appreciate you joining, man. And you're welcome back on any show that's not a prediction show anytime.
Oh, absolutely, Juice. Always a pleasure, my man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And as always, you can follow him at Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter. Follow myself at Juicy Steen on Twitter, and this show at Juicy Steen on YouTube, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts via iTunes, Amazon Music, and of course, juicysteen.podbean.com. So this has been the Royal Rumble Recap Plus show featuring myself and Josh Isenberg. Hopefully everybody enjoys the Super Bowl this weekend. Josh, quick pick on who you think is going to win?
Eagles 28-27.
I'm going to go Chiefs 35-34.
What a mark. Okay, T-Swift.
She's not on the team. I could care less.
That doesn't matter. She's on the team.
That has nothing to do with my pick. You said it. I said the number. I didn't say anything about anybody else or the fans. So,
well, have fun, everybody. I'll be excited for it.
Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy this weekend of wrestling. Hopefully, if you tune into SmackDown tonight, hopefully something that we've talked about actually comes to fruition and we look smarter than we actually are. So appreciate that in advance. But for Josh, I'm Juice, and I'll see you guys next week with another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.